I've got a question here. After several months of dedicated study, I finally moved from the high 150s into the 160s on my practice tests. My ultimate goal, however, is to break into the 170s. What are the critical differences in study approach, mindset, and strategies needed to make this significant leap from the 160s to the 170s? Are there particular areas or types of questions where I should focus more to gain those extra points? Yes, there are. In logical reasoning, for example, I would make sure you're really clear on the most commonly appearing types of questions, which are inference, necessary assumption, and flaw. There are also key differences between certain question types that students typically have trouble with. So for example, in inference questions, we have must be true and most strongly supported. These are two very different question types, even though some folks lump them into the umbrella category of inference. So for must be true, it's got to be 100% supported. For most strongly supported, it's simply incredibly likely or is a reasonable assumption, but is not necessarily 100% guaranteed. Then you have, for example, the key difference between necessary assumption questions and sufficient assumption questions. You want to make sure that you are super clear on the difference between those two. You also want to make sure you're really good at negating answer choices for necessary assumption questions. If you have trouble with that, that's an area to work on. So students in the 160s are still a little bit hazy on some of these distinctions, whereas students in the 170s are crystal clear on these distinctions. They're also really good at pacing and allocating their time efficiently. In logical reasoning, you have a general order of difficulty over the course of the section. So it's not just about getting questions right in isolation when you're drilling by type. Far too many students spend way too long drilling questions by type, when in reality, of course, you're taking the LSAT with these questions in the context of an entire 35-minute under standard time constraint, and then 4 sections almost back to back with only a break in the middle for working on endurance as well. So you got to be good at accuracy, then pacing, then endurance. Students in the 160s get stuck on the accuracy portion with the drilling and are a little bit hazy on certain key question types, where students in the 170s have moved on from accuracy into pacing and endurance and are already clear on all of these distinctions. They're good at flagging questions and skipping them, coming back to them later. They're going through the easier questions more quickly to build up a time bank to apply to the tougher questions later in the section, and they are coming back to those tough questions with a few minutes to spare. Students in the 160s also are tending to just blindly apply the strategies they've copied from a prep book or a course, and those in the 170s have gained a deeper understanding about why the strategies work. You want to look at the LSAT ultimately from the test maker's point of view. You want to see it from their perspective. I personally gained a ton of insights when I started writing my own LSAT questions from scratch. I wrote about 10 of my own original logic games, including ordering and all the different types of grouping games as well. And I learned that LSAC is really clever at laying tricks and traps in these questions. They design really tempting wrong answer choices that are meant to exploit a test taker's common misconceptions. So if you've gone down an incorrect logical path, for example, you screwed up trying to take the contrapositive of a conditional statement, and so you are then confidently choosing a wrong answer choice. And let me tell you, it's really clever when they write those tempting wrong answer choices that exploit different mistakes a student might be prone to making. So if you are looking to get into the 170s, I would highly recommend that you try writing your own LSAT questions from scratch. It doesn't have to be as difficult or as complex as an official LSAT question. It could just be a little mini drill of sorts. And then you'll discover what are the key principles underlying the design of these questions. If you're in a study group or in a course, you can also trade questions with other students to see how yours compare to theirs, and have them try yours and have them try yours, and vice versa. It could be a really useful exercise to help you get really clear again on conditionality, contrapositives, and other classic LSAT methods of reasoning that show up pretty consistently on the exam. I will note as well that those in the 170s tend to score perfect on logic games, maybe -1, and they're losing most of their points on reasoning and reading comp. So if you are looking to get into the 170s and you're taking the LSAT with the game section, I would make sure that you're really good at logic games. And if you aren't yet, of course, there are nearly 400 previously administered logic games in the nearly 100 released practice tests that you can study from, so that by test day, you've seen it all before, and the game section is just a walk in the park. Of course, keep refining and perfecting reasoning and reading comp as well, but those are a little bit tougher to perfect for the typical student because they have those perceived ambiguities of language. So first and foremost, perfect games, then look at where are your gaps or misunderstandings showing up in reasoning and reading comp. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, please do me a favor and share it with someone who needs to see it. And in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.